Last week in Michigan politics, benefits for a food assistance program serving over 1 million Michiganders set to be put on pause. Why the state says it's happening. Plus, so-called No Kings protests swept across the nation over the weekend. We take you inside one of the largest that took place here in West Michigan. And could dry Sundays become a thing of the past in one West Michigan community? As the city considers its restriction on alcohol sales, we have both sides of the debate. I'm Josh Alburtus, and this is your 13 on your side rundown. And we begin with the ongoing shutdown of the federal government. The impasse now dragging out nearly a month with seemingly no deal in sight. And it seems to already be having major impacts in Michigan. The state's Health and Human Services Department says it's been instructed by a federal Department of Agriculture service to temporarily pause issuing November benefits for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP. MDHHS says they received that directive from the USDA's Food and Nutrition Service, who they say indicated the ongoing lapse in federal funding was to blame for limited funding availability. MDHHS tells us that about 1.4 million Michiganders receive SNAP benefits. About half, we're told, are families with children, and about a third are seniors or people with disabilities.
We're already hearing from our food pantry partners and our school partners about both families' concerns with SNAP benefits as well as our nonprofit organizations, and how there is already such a demand for healthy food access. Reach out to your congresspeople and reach out to your local state legislatures and express to them about the importance of SNAP.
And 13 on your side reached out to the USDA to confirm whether the pause had been directed and asked for a statement if so. We received this response from a USDA spokesperson saying, quote, "We are approaching an inflection point for Senate Democrats. Continue to hold out for health care for illegals or reopen the government so mothers, babies, and the most vulnerable among us can receive timely WIC and SNAP allotments." And certainly a lot of that back and forth to go around on Capitol Hill, it seems, as lawmakers still have yet to come to a singular deal. Democrats are reportedly holding out for extensions to health care subsidies, while Republicans are urging the immediate passage of a short-term funding plan that would reopen the government.
It's unfortunate because people are going to suffer because of this. It doesn't need to happen. We can open up the government as soon as the Senate Democrats agree to pass the legislation that's already been passed simply to keep the government open. It's not a partisan issue. It's really about governing.
And where you just heard there from Republican West Michigan Congressman John Molinar, we also heard from a Democratic Congresswoman here in our state earlier this week.
Right now, we don't have a deal that is good for Michiganders. Healthcare costs are only going up, and they will continue to accelerate if we do not act. What comes with that is certainly other impacts to our federal government. I am hearing about food assistance, investigations for our Great Lakes to keep our water safe, and it is concerning.
This past weekend, millions of people marched across the nation as part of what were dubbed No Kings protests against the actions of President Donald Trump and his administration. Some of those demonstrators marched right here in Grand Rapids. And 13 on your side's Peter Elliott was there in the streets of downtown to hear their demand for what they felt would be change.
This No Kings protest here in downtown Grand Rapids began at Rosa Parks Circle. Now the thousands of demonstrators are on the move, marching down Ottawa Avenue.
It is our right to keep
Rallying, then hitting the road.
This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like.
At the No Kings protest movement. Against President Trump and his administration.
More people's rights are being trampled upon. People are angry.
Saturday afternoon's rally, one of more than a dozen protests in West Michigan alone, on a day of nationwide mass demonstrations.
The energy is wild.
It is so heartwarming. It fills all of our cups that organize this and are working every day to try to push back. Like, seeing this is why we keep moving.
Organizer Lauren Coman expects turnout to exceed the first No Kings Day back in June.
Based on our route alone and where the march has landed, we know that that is more people than we've seen in June. It's more people than we've seen in April. It's more people than we saw at Women's March in March.
Reverend Ann Schneer marched in the front of the procession.
I think it's important that, actually as a clergy person, that I express my rights as an American citizen. I personally am here as an expression of my faith because my faith tells me to work for showing God's love for all people.
Signs and speeches running the gamut of issues, from the presence of immigration and customs enforcement to reproductive and voting rights.
We are moving West Michigan Nice into West Michigan Activate. We are getting out there, we are doing what we need to do, and we are bringing the people forward to protect our community.
Even after this rally. In downtown Grand Rapids, I'm Peter Elliott, 13 on your side.
Immigration enforcement at the southern border has been a priority for the Trump administration. And this week, troops from Michigan's National Guard left West Michigan and headed south. 13 on your side's Micah Cho was there and has more on their mission and reaction from the families who said goodbye.
This is the 1430th Engineer Company with the Michigan National Guard behind me, and they're spending their last moments with their friends and family before they get deployed to the southern border. Now, that deployment is expected to last for up to a year.
It was a very proud moment. I get a little choked up.
Jerry Nemeth was one of the many family members cheering for the Michigan National Guard's 1430 Engineer Company as they walked off the ice of Western Michigan University's Lawson Ice Arena. One of those soldiers is Nemeth's nephew.
We're just happy that so many of these, not just my nephew, but all these troops are going to service our country.
The over 100 troops are headed south to the U.S.-Mexico border, according to Brigadier General Robbie Wag. They'll be supporting Customs and Border Protection agents as part of President Donald Trump's mission to help secure the border.
For general wide area security, you know, we have one of the things that really is the strength of the National Guard is our flexibility, understanding this is an engineer unit with very specific skill set. That we've employed as an engineer unit often in some of their missions historically as they've deployed in the past. But in this case, there'll also be a much broader skill set of traditional security.
Friday morning, the National Guard troops stood in formation as the crowd watched their farewells, something Wag says is a crucial part of their mission. He adds it's not something the Guard takes for granted.
You talk to our military spouses and children, they're the ones that really bear the burden of these things, and they are the bill payer for the things that we do.
The last time the 1430th Engineer Company was deployed was to Afghanistan in 2010. For now, in Kalamazoo, I'm Mike Cho, 13 on your side. A father battling cancer is reunited with his family. Jose Daniel Contreras Cervantes was detained for more than 2 months by Immigration and Customs Enforcement after he was arrested in August by a sheriff's deputy in Macomb County for allegedly driving 10 miles over the speed limit. Contreras Cervantes did not have a driver's license or immigration papers. He was born in Mexico and came to the U.S. illegally when he was 14. Part of that detention was spent at the North Lake Processing Center in Baldwin. We're now hearing from the ACLU of Michigan attorney who sued to earn his release and that of other immigrants. 13 on your side's Peter Elliott has the story.
A family back together again.
This is why we do this work.
Jose Daniel Contreras Cervantes is now home after being detained for more than 2 months by Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
They've all been released. They are all home.
So are 9 other immigrants who were held indefinitely without bond hearings by the federal government.
There is hope, and we're not going to give up hope. We're not going to give up on these families and on these people.
Miriam Ackerman, a senior staff attorney for the ACLU of Michigan, sued to bring this issue to court.
The law on this is very, very strong. Decisions coming out all the time saying this is wrong, this is illegal, across the country and in Michigan.
On Friday, a federal judge ruling that ICE violated due process rights in denying bond hearings.
And she writes, in a nation of laws vetted and implemented by Congress, we don't get to arbitrarily choose which laws we feel like following when they best suit our interests.
For Contreras Cervantes, part of his detention was spent at the North Lake Processing Center in Baldwin. While in custody, treatment for his rare form of cancer was disrupted.
There's absolutely no reason to lock somebody up who has leukemia, is a dad, and is so deeply embedded in his community.
Still, Ackerman worries that ICE will continue its policy of detaining immigrants indefinitely.
Despite this unrelenting wave of defeat in court, and so I think if they're not stopping, we're not stopping, and people need to stand up for their rights.
For now, she's relieved this painful chapter is over, sharing a text she received from Jose's wife, Lupita.
The toddler is overly obsessed with her dad. She won't let him out of her sight. Last night, she slept with her little arms around his neck. He woke up sore, but he said it was the best sleep he ever had.
A 13 on Your Side reached out to ICE for comment on its detention policies. We also asked whether or not it will continue to withhold hearings for immigrants in light of this court ruling. As of earlier this week, we had not yet heard back. And tax deductions for tips and overtime are on the way following the passage of the state budget earlier this month. Coming up, what you need to know to take advantage of the changes. A new development on a controversial electric vehicle battery plant that was proposed for Green Charter Township near Big Rapids. The entity behind it, Goshen, had faced its fair share of scrutiny, and now the Michigan Economic Development Corporation is pulling its funding for the project. 13 on Your Side's Micah Cho has been following this story for years and has the latest.
There has been a celebration going on everywhere all over this community. It's unreal.
For Lori Brock, Goshen state funding being pulled is good news.
There is power, and the grassroots movement is huge and very, very powerful. And we have proven that over and over.
Brock owns a horse farm across the street from where Goshen proposed their $2 billion electric vehicle battery plant, and she's been opposed to the idea since the project was announced in 2022. But on Thursday morning, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation announced they would be pulling $50 million in grants for the project.
It's the beginning of the end for them. And this is what we've been waiting for. And our community can finally start to heal again. I mean, this has caused a diversity in our community that's been unreal, and we didn't want it.
Last month, the Michigan Strategic Fund, which approves the grants that the MEDC carries out, sent a letter to Goshen's VP of North America Operations, Chuck Thalen, stating that the company was in default of their promises and milestones in relation to the grants, adding that they, quote, abandoned the project, end quote. Goshen had 30 days to comply or the funds would be terminated. 13 on Your Side reached out to Thalen. In a text message, he said in part, Goshen has not abandoned its project in Green Charter Township. Goshen, however, recognizes the significance of the hurdles that have been placed in front of this project by those who oppose it. In the past, Goshen has said over 10 years, the plant would bring over 2,000 jobs to Mecosta County. Congressman John Molinar, who has expressed concerns over Goshen, disagrees with those claims.
Let's acknowledge that those numbers that Goshen was touting were never realistic. They were relying on billions of dollars of federal dollars, hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars in the state of Michigan, and an EV battery market that has plummeted. And so it was never a sound investment.
It's been 2 weeks since the state budget was passed, and one of the major takeaways was tax deductions for tips, overtime, and Social Security. And leaders say it will help families save money. But how does it work? 13 on Your Side, Stephen Bonner hears from an expert who breaks it down for us.
With the new state budget in full effect, people will soon be able to take advantage of tax deductions on tips, Social Security, and overtime.
Let's say that you're a server and you work 20 hours a week, and you get the average number of tips we see here in Michigan. They'd be saving about an extra $50 a month.
But when will you get that money? Associate Dean of the Seidman College of Business at GVSU, Paul Isley, says it all depends on how that person files their taxes.
If they work with their employer and their tax professionals and adjust their taxes correctly, then they could effectively see that extra money every week.
They could also see the money at the end of the year.
That would be an increase in their return and result in them having some money to spend at that moment in time.
And while people might not save a lot of money from this change, Isley says it can still add up.
As we look at families here in Michigan, if you're earning less than somewhere between 80 and 100,000 a year as a family, you can't even save money. So any additional money that you have coming in reduces the debt that you're incurring, reduces your need for social assistance, and increases your ability to buy the things that you need.
And while these are tax deductions that most people would likely see at the end of the year, you could change your W-4 filing to have less taxes taken out each paycheck in anticipation of the deduction amount. It is advised to talk to your employer and a tax professional to determine the correct way to adjust your tax filings to avoid owing at the end of the year. And owners of electric and hybrid vehicles in Michigan could be stuck paying nearly double what they paid last year in annual registration fees. That increase is because of changes to how Michigan will tax motor fuel in 2026. As part of the state budget negotiations, Republicans and Democrats agreed to remove the sales tax for motor fuels and then raise the motor fuel tax by 20 cents in order to support roads funding. That change may have a very small effect on gas prices, but greatly changes how much money electric and plug-in hybrid vehicle owners will pay in registration fees. That's because those fees are tied directly to the amount of the state's motor fuel tax. In 2025, EV owners paid $160 and hybrid owners paid $60. According to 13 on Your Side's calculations, in 2026, EV owners will pay $260 and those plug-in hybrid owners will pay $110. That's separate from the rate for trucks and buses, which could pay more. Kent County's foster care system is facing what some local leaders are calling a child welfare emergency. A nonprofit that oversees foster care in the county claims that a cut in recent state funding could dismantle years of progress for local children. 13 on Your Side's Kiara Patterson spoke with the nonprofit that oversees foster care in Kent County. She explains why the situation is sparking alarm and a legal fight to bring funding back.
At any given day in Kent County, there are over 400 children in foster care. Those children and their families are going through the most challenging times in their life, and they deserve the best possible care.
The West Michigan Partnership for Children, or WMPC, has managed Kent County's foster care system for the past 8 years. The only county in Michigan using a performance-based model designed to improve outcomes for children.
That model requires really close partnership with a lot of different agencies, is in partnership with Bethany Christian Services, Samaritas, Catholic Charities of West Michigan, D.A. Blodgett St. John's, and Wellspring Lutheran Services.
But now that model is in jeopardy. CFO Tim Bergsma with WMPC says it lost all of its state funding after the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services decided not to renew its contract when lawmakers finalized the new budget earlier this month.
We discovered, probably along with other people, that some funding that was originally going to be earmarked for us to continue this work that I just described was no longer going to be available.
Bergsma says WMPC only learned about the cut through its partner agencies, not directly from the state. Without funding, he says the services that keep children with family members and prevent placement breakdowns could disappear.
So once that work stops, you'll end up with greater placement disruptions and lack of services immediately for the children. So who stands to lose here are the most vulnerable in this system.
WMPC has filed a lawsuit against MDHHS, claiming the state's actions violate a legislative mandate requiring Kent County to operate a performance-based child welfare system.
We disagree with both a decision to get made to not fund us, as well as how that decision was made and is getting carried out. And so we feel it's best that the courts work that out.
Judges from Kent County's 17th Circuit Court have also sounded the alarm, sending a letter to Governor Gretchen Whitmer and state legislators calling the situation a child welfare emergency. For now, WMPC and its partner agencies are still caring for children, even as WMPC's funding has dried up and the uncertainty grows.
We're remaining steadfast and focused on what do these children and their families need, but also defend our right to be there and to continue to do the good work we're doing.
And a hearing in the case is scheduled for November 17th. in Lansing. And in the Senate, a number of Republican lawmakers here in Michigan are calling for the governor to seek the resignations of leadership within the Michigan State Police. 13 on your side's Callie Lichter has why.
These Republican senators sent a letter to Governor Whitmer demanding the immediate resignations of Colonel James Grady and Lieutenant Colonel Amy Brimacombe. They say the agency has become, quote, chaotic and mismanaged, and calls the leadership under Grady and Brimacombe corrupt and cowardly. The legislators cite the no confidence survey, alleged corruption and ineptitude, toxic workplace culture, and lack of accountability. They say Whitmer has, quote, done absolutely nothing, saying she is squarely responsible for what they believe to be a lack in leadership, and that MSP cannot rebuild trust while Grady and Brimacombe are in charge.
Governor Whitmer, clean house. Force Colonel Grady and Lieutenant Colonel Brimacombe to resign. Restore integrity to this department and give Michigan State troopers the leadership that they've earned. Because right now, the only thing standing between the Michigan State Police and the respect they deserve is the failed leadership sitting up there at the top.
The press secretary for the governor's office sent us the following statement, saying Colonel Grady has demonstrated steady, principled leadership at the helm of the Michigan State Police, dedicating more than 25 years to serving and protecting the people of Michigan. It goes on to say, thanks to the efforts of Colonel Grady, troopers across the state, and their close collaboration with local law enforcement, Michigan has seen significant drops in violent crime. While some choose to focus on partisan attacks, we remain focused on ensuring every Michigander feels safe in their community. We have full confidence in Colonel Grady to get the job done. Callie Lichter, 13 on your side.
Potential changes to Michigan's carpool lots and rest stops have a lot of people talking. It was the topic of conversation at a public hearing hosted by MDOT this week. A list of changes could apply to highway rest areas, carpool lots, welcome centers, and scenic turnouts. And the changes range from setting a maximum stay at 48 hours, no camping or alcohol or parking on the grass, group activities requiring a permit. There was plenty of public comment and questions. Here's a few.
You had mentioned that this is not intended to be punitive to homeless people, but in my opinion, they will be the ones who are affected the greatest.
I think that if you have to start getting a permit in order to go up on a pedestrian bridge, in order to just maybe let's have a rally, that you're limiting my free speech. And that's my constitutional right.
If you want to make comments, you have until November 20th. You can do so online, make a written comment at a rest stop, or mail in a comment. The goal is to have these new rules finalized by spring of next year. As we get closer to next month's elections and next year's midterms, something of note in the State House. Legislation is being considered that would require local school board races to be partisan. Currently, local school board candidates are nonpartisan, meaning the candidates do not disclose their party affiliation on the ballot. According to reporting from Michigan Public, Republican supporters of the legislation say the move will make local school board races more transparent. But opponents say it would make education discussions more political. It would not, however, affect state school board races, which are already partisan. The bill currently sits in a House committee. It has not moved since being introduced in June. We are just 2 weeks away from Michigan's November elections, and one of the big races in our state is for the mayor of Detroit. But how could it impact West Michigan? We spoke with an expert earlier this week. Summers in West Michigan have now looked, felt, and smelt different for years, as Canadian wildfire smoke has blanketed the region and put the state of the environment front and center.
Wildfires, the smoke.
That Canadian wildfire smoke.
And it's something many experts have been warning about.
It's a combination of hotter summers that dry them out, shorter winters with less snowpack to keep things moist in the spring. Regular drought conditions.
This expert telling 13 on your side this summer, while the skies may have been anything but clear, What the research suggests is
this is the new normal.
But when it comes to blunting what many feel is the environmental blow to our region, some feel part of the answer may be just weeks away in the state's largest city.
Detroit isn't just our state's largest city, but it's kind of the anchor of the state's environmental future.
And according to environmental law professor Jeremy Orr at Michigan State University, its size and affinity for industry has made it a major contributor to a changing climate. In fact, as it has worked to reduce its footprint, 2018 data published by the city found that Detroit produced almost 11 million metric tons of CO2 equivalent. That's about 24 billion pounds of emissions.
What happens in Detroit also sets precedents on how other cities approach climate change and climate resilience and clean energy and environmental justice and climate justice.
Orr spoke with us just as voters in the Motor City prepare to head to the polls to elect a new mayor next month. City Council President Mary Sheffield and Pastor Solomon Kinlock will vie for the post of current Mayor Mike Duggan, running an independent campaign for governor.
The mayor of Detroit has far more power than people realize as it relates to environmental and climate outcomes in the city of Detroit.
According to the city and the nonpartisan Citizens Research Council of Michigan, the mayor wields broad powers in Detroit, including being able to appoint department directors, reorganize city government, and propose an annual budget that would set the city's priorities.
So I think when we look at West Michigan and other places around the state, they should be looking at the city of Detroit and how they respond, particularly in ways to potentially lead on climate issues.
And for more information on upcoming elections and what may be on your ballot, you can go to michigan.gov/vote. Newly unsealed recordings from Ottawa County government that were released this week show what went on during a contentious closed-door meeting late last year. After the break, what was discussed and what it ultimately led to. The city of Zeeland is looking at possibly legalizing alcohol sales on Sundays after lifting its total alcohol ban nearly 2 decades ago. This week, the city council held a public hearing on Sunday sales, and 13 on Your Side's Nick Nelson was there and heard the arguments for and against.
I feel like it'll do a lot of good things. It'll give the city a little more exposure, and it'll definitely bring more money to the downtown area.
Mike Gritzmaker co-owns his namesake restaurant and bar and says he's been in communication with the city of Zeeland to lift a ban on selling alcohol on Sunday, a rule that's been in place since alcohol sales were completely banned before 2008.
Zeeland was dry for a long time, and so we don't take lightly the use of the liquor licenses, and as we make any changes along the way, we want to make sure that we're doing that carefully and collecting this feedback.
City Marketing Director Abby DeRue says right now the city isn't taking a position on the issue and leaving it up to the council to make a careful determination on. Gritzmaker believes changing the ordinance would give his restaurant the opportunity to be a hub for Lions fans.
Some people follow when they're good, and they have been for a few years, and I feel like that would definitely help the business on Sundays for sure.
However, some at a public hearing on the matter Monday expressed their opposition. Bill Leisinga with the North Street Christian Reformed Church downtown believes Sunday alcohol sales would damage the city's integrity.
We feel that it's responsible for us to observe Sunday as a day of worship and to engage in this type of activity we are not in favor of.
The ordinance change will be in front of the Zeeland City Council on November 3rd. And in Ottawa County, the county government has released recordings from a closed-door meeting of its Board of Commissioners late last year. The meeting had to do with what led up to 2 controversial separation agreements with county employees in December. We poured over those records and bring you the details.
We are here to speak about a specific item.
Just focus on your chair. That was the scene behind closed doors in Ottawa County late last year, as county commissioners met to discuss what would become some controversial business. The county releasing the December 10th recordings this week per what it said was a court order.
I don't think that we should give him a dime.
A board then under the majority control of conservative group Ottawa Impact met to consider what would eventually be 2 separation and release agreements with county officials. Interim County Administrator Benjamin Wetmore and Executive Aide Jordan Epperson a discussion that came as a new Republican coalition, often at odds with Ottawa Impact, was set to take power in January. When it came to Wetmore,
he has no ill will or animosity. He understands the current political dynamics. He understands, based on statements made and events that have occurred, that he will not be detained.
Discussion also involved a potential agreement with Epperson after claims he allegedly brought to the county sparked an investigation.
There was a laundry list.
Elements of some of Epperson's claims, then Commission Chair Joe Moss signaled, were connected to former County Administrator John Gibbs, who was fired from the county last year.
Such as things relating to Mr. Gibbs and his treatment and hostile work environment.
Epperson's hiring under Gibbs had spurred its own controversy and even a lawsuit from another candidate for Epperson's position that had claimed age discrimination. Epperson, according to Moss, had requested dismissal.
If somebody wants to be dismissed, then they should be allowed to be dismissed or they should quit. If he has a claim against us, the county, then he should bring it in the court of law and then let justice take place. But this is I'm not going to be bullied into handing out money. This is
zero. Okay.
Zero.
Like with Wetmore, commissioners debated behind closed doors what they should offer Epperson, or whether to offer Epperson anything at all.
Don't give me that, Gretchen. That's ridiculous.
But no, that's the potential risk. It will be weighed.
We're capitulating to somebody trying to strong arm one of your friends, strong arming us for some money here, which is ridiculous.
So.
No, I never knew Jordan. I never even really spoke with him until February of this year.
The exact amount and benefits far from unanimous at first.
4 at 75, 6 and 75, 6 and 100.
But the consensus eventually landed. According to the agreement signed by Epperson and county officials later that month, Epperson would receive a $75,000 lump sum. That would be in addition to 5 months severance payment and 5 months paid health insurance. And we did speak with Epperson on Wednesday. He said he had not yet listened to the recording and hoped transparency would help ease some tension and bring about healing in the community. You can see more of his statement and this story up on our website, 13onyourside.com. And this week, we got an update on the riverfront transformation in downtown Grand Rapids, funded in part by over $10 million from a past state budget. It was part of the city's 175th anniversary celebration this week at the Grand Rapids Public Museum. 13 on Your Side's Peter Elliott gives us a closer look.
A celebration of the city that won't be forgotten anytime soon. Local officials unveiling a plaque on Friday afternoon dedicating the new riverfront space at the Grand Rapids Public Museum.
A plaque that commemorates and recognizes the 175th anniversary of the city of Grand Rapids as a city. And that plaque, that marker will be installed permanently on these grounds.
Grounds that are still under construction.
We actually expected this would be finished by now, and it's no one's fault. It's just things happen.
Work began in January of last year on the $50 million project. Officials now expect the space to open to the public early next year.
Before all this started, it was a very steep bank full of vegetation, lots of it invasive, and there was no way to get from the museum building safely down to the river.
River access is now possible. So is learning in the new outdoor classroom.
So this is an entire transformation that is designed to allow public access all the time, but also so the museum can engage in its educational programs, which is focused on history, science, and culture.
A monument to the past, sparking inspiration for the future.
Thank you for keeping the spirit of exploration alive along the Grand River for the next 175 years and beyond.
And Grand Rapids business owners along Wealthy Street are objecting to proposed changes, which include removing 50 parking spots for bike lanes. In a letter sent to commissioners, more than 24 business owners say removing the parking spaces will create problems for their customers. Some of them spoke at a city commission meeting this week. Others are in favor of adding the bike lanes.
Removing the already limited street parking available in Easttown would have disastrous effects on all businesses in this corridor, no matter which side of the street we are on. These include increased frustration for customers who already find it difficult to find parking in Easttown, Loss of those customers, which means lower sales in an environment where many small businesses are already struggling.
This is what young people want. They want to be able to walk and bike places. They don't want to have to drive everywhere. If I were a business owner, I would be clamoring to have infrastructure like this out in front of my business. Like, this is how you appeal to like young and upcoming customers.
The City Commission did not take any final action on the issue at that meeting. John Ball Zoo is getting a major boost to its African region thanks to a federal grant. The zoo is receiving $250,000 from the Institute of Museum and Library Services to add new educational signs, interactive exhibits, and artwork. The funding will help expand the African region with giraffes, ostriches, and a new giraffe barn expected to open in 2028. A local artist will also create a piece celebrating African wildlife as part of the project.
It's humbling to have that level of support not only at the federal level, but at the state and local level that we have. That really allows us to do the critical work with our mission.
Officials in one lakeshore community are considering a way to make their only public access beach more accessible. What they're considering, that's next. It's a scenic part of Lake Michigan in Allegan County, but it is not easy to get to or from. Now, local government plans are moving forward to build new stairs from the top of the dune down to the beach in Laketown Township. 13 on your side's Micah Cho shows us where the steps would go to make it easier to get to the beach.
This dune behind me is where the old stairs sat for Laketown Beach public access. Now, we're told that the new stairs will not mimic the old pattern. However, they may have a little bit more of a direct pattern to the beach. Wild Lake Michigan waves and erratic winds have marked the end of summer, leaving Laketown Beach in Allegan County empty for now. But when the weather heats up again, Brad Lanninga hopes that there will be an easier way to get down there.
Yeah, we have had a project in the works for a little while here looking at putting in new stairs to give access to residents and guests alike to the community down to the beach here.
Currently, there are 51 steps at Laketown Beach that bring you up to the plateau on the dune, and that's where they end. After that, it's a hike through the sand to get down and back up. Lanninga, the chairperson of the Laketown Township Parks Commission, says the old steps that went to the beach were torn out earlier this year due to old age and safety concerns.
I've walked these stairs many times, and they're not easy even when they are in place. But we're excited for the opportunity to see these new stairs go in.
Lanninga says the Parks Commission has recently requested funding from the board for a new set of stairs that would cost anywhere from $100,000 to $250,000. They would go in what's called the bowl, avoiding the up and over path the last set of stairs had near a larger dune.
We've been considering whether we go with wooden stairs or we go with an easy beach stair, an adjustable style of stair through the bowl.
Lanninga hopes that the stairs will be installed by summer of 2026. For now, in Laketown Township, Micah Cho, 13 on your side.
And that's the rundown for your week in Michigan politics. Be sure to keep up with all the top political stories of the day, both on air and online at 13onyourside.com.